Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and despite a lack of Celtic related news throughout the course of this international break, today we've got a lot of it, because today was the AGM for Celtic Football Club, that annual meeting where we find very little out, just like this year. Once again, another pointless endeavour it feels like, but we're going to try and deep dive it anyway, because that's what we do here. So, the 2023 Celtic AGM, what happened? If you haven't already, please make sure to hit like and subscribe. It would be much appreciated as we try and get towards 50,000 subscribers on the channel. It's absolutely free, so if you haven't pressed any of those buttons, take a wee second, scroll down, press them. Thank you very much. Now, as I said in the intro to this video, the AGM to me nowadays doesn't do much. It's supposed to, and for a lot of people it might. You might find them very useful, you might find out the answers to questions you personally have about the football club, but generally I feel like we don't find out much. I feel like it's the same rinse and repeat answers year after year. We want to find out more about the ambition of the club moving forward and what we're going to do to get better moving forward, and we're always smacked with the same stuff, which is great. So this year, not much different. However, there is a couple of pressing issues that were slightly addressed throughout the course of the AGM, and we're going to do that in today's video. Now, once again, Dermot Desmond was not present. Yep, Dermot Desmond for however many years now has not turned up to his own press conference. We will touch on that later on. He wasn't there. Ross Desmond was there, his son, in place of Dermot. And alongside him, of course, he was joined by Michael Nicholson, the CEO, Chris Mackay, the Chief Financial Officer, Peter Lawwell, the Chairman of the club, Brendan Rodgers, Fran Alonso. Basically, the key figures at Celtic Football Club were present, aside from Dermot Desmond, who continuously decides not to turn up. I don't know his reasoning for that. I don't know if he's just a busy guy. However, you feel like for someone who's owned the club now for quite a long time, and apparently so invested in it, would actually show some interest and turn up to the AGM. He wasn't there, so keep that in mind as we go through today's video. Now, this year, I just want to try and brush through everything. Some things will have a lot more conversation than others, a lot more discussion surrounding it. So I'm just going to flick to and from here to me being full screen, because there is so much to cover. And I know a lot of you be complaining, it's the Daily Rangers, hey, the Daily Record, you don't like it. I know you don't like it, but it's the best place for me to get through every single bit of action. As you say, they've done a live update, so if you do want to go and read for yourself and see what's been said, then you can do that. It's on the Daily Record website. You can also find it through the Celtic Rumours page on Twitter, Celtic Underground. They've got a fantastic thread from someone who was present as well. But I'm going to use this just for the visual side of things, so that you can see what I'm seeing and what I'm adding discussion to. We might be here for a while. There's a few things to kind of go through. Of course, they've addressed the Green Brigade situation. They've spoke about, you know, the gulf between us and European clubs, our transfer strategies. There is a lot of pressing issues in here. Some things addressed a little less than I would have liked. But let's not waste any more time, shall we? Let's start and go through this. So, the show kicked off with Jeremy Culloch as usual. They've got their host in for the evening. Key event. Peter Lawwell started off by talking about the gap between the elite and the rest getting bigger. His comment was, the gap is getting bigger. The game has changed since we got to the last 16. We've done well against Lazio and Atletico at home. We just need to be more consistent. That was followed by the presentation on the financials at Celtic, which we all know was very good this year. We got the end of year release a month or so ago now, talking about the finances and what's in the bank and the profits we've made. All very good reading, but Peter Lawwell very quick to point out that the game has changed from the last time that we made the last 16 in 2013 when we played Juventus. 10 years ago, may I add, 10 years. So the gap is getting bigger. The game has changed since we got to the last 16. Listen, we know that the gap is bigger. The whole landscape of football has changed massively since 2013. I always like to use the pinpoint event as Gareth Bale's transfer to Real Madrid. I feel like that was when the game just went nuts in regard to transfer fees, just general financial gaps between the elites in England and abroad. and teams like Celtic. That was when we started to fall behind. We use it as an excuse every year to say that we can't compete at the elite level with these sides in the Champions League. However, we have showed signs of promise. We need to be more consistent, Peter Lawwell says. What annoys me about that is, to be more consistent, we need to spend better and wiser. I've not had a massive problem with the players we've brought in. I get excited for every player that comes to Celtic because I genuinely believe that they all have something to offer. At some point or another, we'll hopefully find that in them. Some we don't, some we obviously do. But what annoys me is, if he thinks we need to be more consistent, put your money where your mouth is and give Brendan Rodgers or any other Celtic manager the tools to do that. Peter Lawwell, now chairman, was CEO of a club that hasn't made it past a knockout round in Europe since he came in. And he wants us to be more consistent. Well, there's obviously reasons for that, Peter. And you're meant to be, or we're meant to be in charge of addressing that. But you didn't. And now you're back as chairman, and we're having the same issues. There's a clear theme here. I'm not asking the club to go and spend £30 million on players, individual players. It's impossible. Celtic can't do that, for so many reasons, not just financially, but because players don't want to come to Celtic who are worth that much money. But there is definitely a lack of ambition in what we do, and if we want to be consistent, we need to show that ambition. But I'm sure we'll talk a bit more about that. What a way for us to start the AGM. So the start to the AGM is the standard. They go through the resolutions, they re-elect members of the board. This is all pretty much stuff that we don't get a say in. We're not shareholders in the club. This is for mostly shareholders. No surprises. With the votes, Peter Lawwell re-elected as chairman. I mean, he's only been in the door as chairman for 2 minutes anyway. Dermot Desmond through with flying colours in his position. All of these votes, Brian Wilson, for example, all these guys, every member of the board and all the rest of it, they all pass with like 99.9% of a vote. There's never a dispute here. There's never a surprise. And there never will be, as long as it's the same people on the board and the same key shareholders making the decisions. Because it's, if I scratch your back, etc. You know the rest. A lot of people have been speaking their thoughts quite openly on members of the board. Choice names being shared. But no surprises at all. Resolutions all voted and passed, etc. Not much exciting in the opening stages of an AGM. May I add, for anybody who watches these videos who is a bit of a business geek, not calling you a geek in a bad way, but I'm not a businessman, I'm not savvy. That's a better word to use. If you're business savvy and you care about this and you care to offer an explanation to any of the big resolutions or shareholder things that have passed, feel free to type away in the comment section, because I'm not the one to look at when it comes to that. I'm here to talk about the FITBA. So, we started off after the resolutions with a cash pledge. Michael Nicholson delivers music to the fans' ears by insisting the club will look to invest in January. No figures are mentioned, but that would be a silly thing to do, given it would alert selling clubs how much the club plan to spend. So, we started off with some good news from Nicholson, saying we plan to invest in January. Now, this also follows on from something that Brendan Rodgers said at the AGM today, and that is the fact that he plans to trim this squad big time over the next 2 windows. I don't want to raise anybody's expectations. I don't want to get my own hopes up or anybody's hopes up in regard to what happens in January. I think January could end up being underwhelming on both sides, both incomings and outgoings. It's all dependent on the business that you can do and you can strike up. We can't force things to happen. We can't force people out the door if the right move isn't there, one that's both beneficial for the player and the club, financially and everything else. So I don't want to get my own hopes up, but Brendan Rodgers did mention at the AGM that there will be a trimming of the squad over the next 2 windows, because there's far too many players here. It's a bloated squad. There are far too many players who are way off the level to play for Celtic. Obviously, we'll probably look at loan deals as well. But on top of that, Michael Nicholson has pledged to spend money in January. We'll see how much that is. Once again, don't get your hopes up, because I don't know how many readily available players there will be in this January window for Celtic. Now, the last couple of Januaries have been decent. We've made signings that have actually, changed the squad. And you look back, especially 2 years ago, coming up, we brought in Maida, Hatate, Matt O'Reilly in the same window. And those are 3 players who are now integral to the squad that we have here at Celtic. I wouldn't get your hopes up to say we're going to have something like that, but at least it's nice to hear that there is plans to spend some money. Felt like I haven't got started yet. I'm waiting for the annoying things to come up. Fran Alonso, Brendan Rodgers both had a little bit of time to speak. Brendan Rodgers spoke about leaving back in 2019. He understands the hurt that he caused when leaving in 2019. He insisted that he made the decision to return with his heart. Brendan, all is forgiven. Okay, don't worry about it. The interesting part is when you get to the questions, and we're about to get there, but Rodgers did have a brief bit to say on the Christmas video. Brendan Rodgers declared himself delighted with his appearance in the Christmas video and admitted he chuckled at his book reappearing on the club's store shelves. In fact, he says he loved it, and that sparked some laughs from the crowd. Nice. Brendan, thanks for giving us a wee laugh, because we're about to get into the annoying parts, aren't we? Question time. Hey, let's see what went down. Obviously, I've already seen what went down. I've been keeping up with it all morning. I've got my bits to say on certain things. But let's get started, shall we? Peter Lawwell grilled to start off. The chairman is asked why the club has not followed UK government code on his appointment after his previous role as chief executive. One fan claiming it's not the law. It's cleared up by Michael Nicholson, who says Chairman Lawwell manages the board and the chief executive manages the day-to-day business. So a little bit of animosity there. Now, one thing I do want to touch up upon, and I don't know if this will pop back up in this thread of events, but someone did ask Peter Lawwell the question, why are you chairman when you were the one that gave Neil Lennon the job in the showers back in 2020? Or was it 2019? Can't remember the year now. 2019. Why should you be chairman when you made an awful decision to give Neil Lennon the job? He was asked that as a genuine question. And Peter Lawwell responded with the remark, have you been awake? Essentially pointing the head towards the financials at Celtic and the trophies we've won and the job that Peter Lawwell feels that he's done as chief executive of Celtic in his past tenure. Which, look, listen, you can't sit here and deny that Peter Lawwell has had a very successful run as chief executive of Celtic Football Club. He did. He oversaw domestic dominance like none other. Financials were through the roof. However, the same old story every year where we're let down at certain hurdles in European football with lack of ambition, with just the same problems that people wanted Peter Lawwell rid of for in the first place. He's now back, and people ask the question, like, you made that decision that ultimately cost us 10 in a row. Why should you be chairman? And that's what he points towards. I think it's a valid question to ask. I think that Peter Lawwell also is within his rights to reply in the manner he did, considering he has overseen such success. But, you know, it is one. I was disappointed when I heard that Peter Lawwell was going to be chairman of Celtic. You know, nothing against the guy here in the channel anyway, but I just thought that it was a backwards decision, and it pointed to a lack of ambition. Obviously, Dermot Desmond and the board wanted to go with someone who they trust and they know has done a good job business-wise for the club. But it was a genuine question to ask. And I hope it's not decisions that we see repeated while Peter Lawwell's back at the club. It is early days yet to his chairman era with Celtic, but, you know, I wouldn't be shocked if we see poor decisions in the future. So, the big topic that we were waiting to see raised at the AGM was raised pretty early on, and it was about the Green Brigade. So, the issue was raised. A Celtic fan called them a poor influence. The supporter points out saying they booed them in its silence, a point that was both met with derision and applause. Lawwell steps in for a call of order. Behave or leave, he says. Michael Nicholson then said he wants Celtic Park full, but the stadium must be safe. He adds there have been concerns around that group for some time, and those have escalated. Says there's been challenges at several grounds, home and away. One of those will be Easter Road, where they revealed that the stewards had been attacked. Nicholson is clapped. Then Green Brigade supporters hit back, and they said the Celtic Trust have taken the floor. They stand in solidarity with the Green Brigade and ask how importantly the board takes fan safety at away games. Nicholson replies with legally safety falls to the ground operator. One risk now is away fans, as brought up in pre-match meetings. Basically, this means rival teams are now worried about some Celtic supporters' behaviour. Which then had a wee bit of to and fro in, it's saying, and it went on and on. It went on and on, and it seems like the big topic of discussion surrounding the Green Brigade, they're peddling the safety conversation. That seems to be the reason they're going with now in regards to the decision to ban the Green Brigade. There was a couple of shouts at this AGM that they should be banned permanently, and I think there was actually talk from the board themselves saying that that was being thought about banning them permanently. Celtic Trust obviously stood up for the Green Brigade at the AGM. They've got their back. This is a situation that isn't going to be resolved anytime soon. Now, Michael Nicholson also did say this. If I bring it up on screen, Nicholson said he's seen CCTV of the Hibs game and says fans were involved in trouble with the police. So that was in regard to the security processes at games. This situation isn't going away or getting resolved anytime soon. And it doesn't seem like it's as black and white as what it originally was when Celtic initially banned the Green Brigade. You know my stance on it. It's not hidden. I'm on the side of the Green Brigade, and I want to see them back at Celtic Park for more reasons that make sense in the stadium than out with the stadium. I understand security concerns. I understand that there is problems with that, and there has been at away stadiums. You need to go to the affected individuals with that. You need to get that addressed with individuals who actually have taken part. I feel the entire punishment of a group, when we all know it's not the entire group anyway, being punished and whatever, I feel like that's just detrimental to what we try to do in the stadium, the atmosphere we try to create. I want to see a solution, but as I said, I don't see it happening anytime soon, and it feels like the board at this AGM know the company they're in the room. That's the honest truth. And I know a lot of you be watching this who aren't backers of the Green Brigade, who are more than happy with them being banned from the stadium. That's fine. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. But the people in the room at an AGM, largely, and I'm not saying everyone, but largely, are on the board's side with everything. Because they're shareholders, they're that, level of supporter. You're talking your elite fan. You're not talking your week-to-week casual punter. These are people with shares in the club for a reason. And most of them have good shares in the club. And once again, scratching each other's backs. So, the company you're in that room. The board know they're not going to be fully challenged. They can say what they like. The people who want to challenge them aren't in the room. And that's one of my problems with an AGM. I don't like that we don't get the opportunity. The floor isn't set for Celtic fans, for your average Celtic fan, to challenge the board on different issues. Whether it be the banning of the Green Brigade, whether it be going forward in Europe, whatever it is. The room is a select few. And they're all like-minded. Apart from some. We've heard that there were people booing the board. People said they booed when they said they were banning the Green Brigade. Obviously, people are there who are on, the side that I'm on and the side of many others. But generally, we know the crowd they're dealing with. And that gets them away with murder at these AGMs. But there hasn't been any talk about a dialogue, which annoys me here. That's one of the things that I feel like the board have to be transparent about now, is if they plan on having a dialogue, if they plan on talking to the Green Brigade, if they plan on trying to sort this. Behaviour is something that can be rectified. It takes a lot of trust, but behaviour is something that can be rectified, and the people who are affected should be the ones that are spoke to. See the people who are going to the games and not doing anything, they've been unrightfully banned. Sort that out. That's the point I'm trying to make, but I don't think it's coming to a resolution anytime soon. A lot of waffling in the Green Brigade segment from me here and just generally at the AGM, but as you can see, somebody told Nicholson that there was no security at Hibs away. It seems like it's just going to go back and forth forever. And this is what I mean. They need to be transparent now about dialogue. And they need to sort it out. Because the longer it goes on, the worse it reflects on the club, the board, just everything. And it should be sorted. And I hate sitting there in an empty, quiet Celtic Park. It's miserable. That Aberdeen game, for as good as we were, and we won 6-0, fuck me. It was quiet. It was boring. It was horrible. Just sort it out. Stop throwing toys at the pram left, right and centre and just get it sorted. That's what I want to see. So we'll go on. Nicholson said he wants to get a fan survey in after Rangers were brought up. Somebody said that Rangers have got a fan advisory board. So after that, Nicholson said he wants to get the timing of a fan survey right. As the record says here, whatever that means. What does that mean? What is the timing is right? In my eyes, that seems like another excuse to me to try and get a time where everybody's happy. Are they going to wait till May when we've won the league so everybody's like, oh great, tick the boxes, you know what I mean? They're scared to put out a fan survey right now because they know they're going to get pelters. For whatever reason. People will complain about anything when they're unhappy. They'll complain about ticket prices. They'll complain about fucking what pies are being sold in the stadium. We'll complain. They don't want people doing a fan survey and complaining about the Green Brigade and complaining about us doing bad in Europe because they know that's going to be the brunt of what they get right now. They'll happily shove it out in May, though, won't they? When we've won the league title, if we win the league title, they'll happily shove it out then because they're like, oh, everybody be happy. I want to know what the timing is right. You know, I want to know. You know, they'll probably time it for beating Rangers or something like that. It's just typical of us. If there is a fan survey, please don't be scared to hide your discontent. No matter if we've just won a double or just won a league title or whatever's happened. Voice your discontent. Let it be known that you've been discontent on certain issues for however many years. Because it's the only way you're going to get through to the bastards. Right, questions were asked about the Champions League. Fans asked the strategy and trying to get out the Champions League group. Brendan Rodgers took out the mic. He says the squad being too big is something they're aware of. And then he talked about, and I've already mentioned this, so this is coming up now here, about trimming the squad. And the Irishman insists Celtic have been competitive in the Champions League while being aware the level is so high. That's just a conversation for another video entirely, isn't it? Us challenging in Europe. There's so much to that, and we've spoke about it. You know, every match reaction we do in the Champions League, we cover how we do in Europe to a certain extent. But there he goes on again about trimming the squad, and that's something I look forward to. It's something that's desperately needed at the club is trimming down that element of too many players and making sure the squad's a good size so we can recruit and register the right players for the competition. But yeah, strategy in getting out this group, I wouldn't even bother answering the question, to be honest. There was a point on disabled supporters. Chris Mackay said he's willing to discuss further refinements for disabled season ticket holders, which is good news, welcoming news, especially for, of course, disabled supporters who might struggle with general match day experience situations. So this is one of the parts that has really wound people up today, and rightfully so. Fans, not customers. A fan asked about the justification for the salary increase for directors at the club. He branded the rise as obscene, and an impassioned speech is applauded by the floor. Peter Lawwell responded to this. He said, "It's not an easy gig. Nobody knows the stresses more than me." And then there was a quote that I've not seen in this thread, but there's a quote floating around on Twitter from this kind of segment in the AGM, where Peter Lawwell says that the wage rises across the board for the directors, etc., are well earned, well justified. Well done, guys. Well done. Bonuses in each other's pockets. Meanwhile, we're paying 600 quid for season tickets and getting fuck all back. The rises do sound obscene. I don't know the exacts. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know what Peter Lawwell's wage is, or Brian Wilson's, or Chris Mackay's, or anybody on the board of directors. I don't know. But it seems like there has been a very... I mean, I've not denied it here at the AGM. There has been increases, there has been bonuses shared among them, and they are putting the money into their pockets. Whereas Celtic are struggling to spend money on signing players and trying to go forward. I'm glad someone challenged Peter Lawwell on the matter, but it doesn't seem like it's went any further than Peter Lawwell saying that they are justified. So... yeah, it's just, once again, these guys at the top of the club, they are so far out from where we are. They're in a completely different bubble from the supporter, from the average Joe, from me and you. A different world completely. And they'll continue to do this as long as they can. They'll continue to take their money and be happy with the job they're doing, because they know that if we win trophies, that if we win league titles... if we beat Rangers, both on and off the park, financially and in football, that, they can justify their wage rises, and they know they won't be properly challenged, because once again, they surround themselves in a room of people who aren't going to take it to the next level. And if somebody does try to, you get told to calm down or get out. They're in a different world of their own, these guys. And they're going to be running their club for a long time, because Dermot Desmond spoke about that. I'm actually going to throw a quote up on the screen now if I can find it. Sorry, not Dermot Desmond, Ross Desmond. I don't know if it's going to come up in this thread again, right? But this is one of the quotes from the AGM as well. Ross Desmond was asked about his father's passion for the club and whether or not they would sell their stake at any point. Ross Desmond said that his dad's passion for the club is as strong as ever, and that in his lifetime, or his father's lifetime, they will never sell their controlling stake of the club. Sad news for all. Sadly, Dermot Desmond plans to be here as long as possible, and he'll be like Vince McMahon. He'll live till he's like 120 probably. But what's annoying is the fact that my father's passion for this club is as strong as the day he was born. Where is he? Where is he? That's what I don't understand, Ross. Because if your father's passion for Celtic is as strong as you say, surely he would turn up to one of his AGMs for the club that he owns and loves so dearly. If he wanted to hear the fans' problems, he would speak. Dermot Desmond hasn't spoke to Celtic fans like that in any sort of manner for God knows how long. I think this is like 7 years in a row now he's not been at the AGM. Yet his passion for Celtic is as strong as ever. Come and speak to the fans then. Come and speak to your shareholders. No. So his passion can't be that great. And that's one of the things that annoyed me about today. So, yeah, wage rises, bonuses, and happy days for the directors. It's so a world just detached from reality, really. They went back to talking about the Champions League. A fan asked if they were happy to be the second worst team in the Champions League. Peter Lawwell said that we are committed to Scottish domination, a world-class football team and a UCL progress, albeit as a huge challenge. They are competing, he insists. They would be true if every one of the first 4 games had blah, blah, blah. That's something that the record said. So, yeah, Peter Lawwell once again kind of brushing it off. Oh, we're happy. We're dominating Scotland. Yeah, woohoo. Woo. We don't care about Europe anymore, even though we blab on about winning the European Cup fucking nearly 60 years after it happened. It would be nice to add another one, or even get close, but it's not going to happen, is it? Because they don't care. That's when Rodgers came in. Rodgers spoke saying that he would love to win the Champions League, but perspective really helps him realise the challenges. He has experience of results against big teams, but it will take time. And look, listen, we know we're never going to win the Champions League. Those days are gone. Football's changed too much, and even if we did have ambition, and even if we did want to go there in Scotland, it's just not going to happen. It's just nigh impossible. But it's the thought of ambition, and I'm glad Rodgers tries to keep your ambition alive. It's not until you hear Peter Lawwell in that talk where you're like, okay, grounded again. We've got the right man at the helm in terms of the football team. Brendan Rodgers is the right man there. It's just so annoying because even though challenges for the Europa League and that, they're just so far out of Celtic's reach because, Scottish domination is the priority for Peter Lawwell. This is one of the quotes from Rodgers, by the way, which I thought was really stood out in the AGM. Teams want young players, but you need experience. The club tried to buy young players, and if a big league calls, it's hard to keep players here. Once again, we're in a vicious cycle in Scotland where all these things are just really, really difficult. And Rodgers realises that. We all realistically realise that. Listen, it's not that I'm sitting here saying that Peter Lawwell's lack of ambition is holding us back from winning European silverware. It's not that, because I understand that European silverware is probably something I'm never going to see in my lifetime. Realistically, with the way that football's going and moving forward, I ain't ever going to have that. But I would like to at least see the board think they can do it and at least put a challenge down to do it. Christ, Rangers got to a Europa League final 2 years ago. It's hard. It's difficult. We know that. We need experience. We also need young players. But when other teams come calling, they go. It's a vicious cycle. But it's nice to have optimism in these cycles. And that's something only a select few people at the club have. There's the bit about Desmond that I brought up a moment ago. I'm not going to get going ranting on it again. But somebody asked if Celtic were sold, would it be to a nation like Saudi Arabia? Lawwell said they're here for the long term. And then there's the quote there. He says, Dermot grew up a Celtic fan. The club is the first and last thing he thinks about during the day. And it was met with a raucous applause. I'm not going through it again. Yeah, right. Rodgers was asked about signings, and he insisted that players aren't pushed on him because there's been this thing for a long time where us as Celtic fans are saying, oh, it's not a Rodgers signing, that's an Ange signing, that's somebody else, it's not Rodgers. Rodgers insisted in this AGM that he has the last say on signings. He is the man that makes the decision. Do we sign him or do we not? Which you can look at it any way possible. Would Rodgers lie to you? I don't know. But I don't know if that's fully true. We obviously don't know. But yeah, I mean, this line puts it perfectly from the record. One cynic might say it's like reading from a script. A question was asked about Mark Lawwell. And let's get that advert off the screen. Mark Lawwell. He asked why the chairman's son was the head of recruitment. Nicholson replied it was Ange who advised Mark Lawwell to take on the role. The only man Ange wanted was Lawwell, and Nicholson asked Joe if he'd like to ask Ange about that. So Joe was the man who asked the question, obviously. Nice, Joe. Nice question. Rodgers then went on to talk about recruitment a little bit. But yeah, they wanted to really get that point in that Mark Lawwell wasn't only employed because he's Peter's son, it was because Ange really wanted him. They said the reason being because Ange worked with him in the City group. you can make of that all what you like. Listen, I've not got problems with Mark Lawwell because I feel like our recruitment has been patchy, but it's been patchy for a long time beyond Mark Lawwell anyway. That needs fixed. That needs addressed, definitely. I'm not saying that's acceptable, but, you know, it's beyond Mark Lawwell. And I do find that, but look, listen, when Mark Lawwell did come into the club, there was all that talk, and we did do the research to see that he had worked with Ange in the past. So it is believable. He's said, go and ask Ange if you want. So he's there because of Ange, apparently. That's the reason they're given. Once again, it's up to you if you want to believe that or not. I've not really got any gripes with it at the minute. If we could find someone who's better at recruitment, I'd be all for it. But then Rodgers said that he decides who signs, as I just mentioned a moment ago. Somebody asked, did you request 7 projects, Brendan? Rodgers says it's important to have these players, but those folk want ready-made players. He guarantees planning to improve is done on a daily basis. So Rodgers obviously happy with these project players, as a lot of people are dubbing them. I think most of us are happy with some of them. But obviously there is the ones in there, like guys like Kwon, Kobayashi, guys like that. You're like, why are we signing them? You know, so that question, you know, well merited, I would say. But I like that he says there's a guarantee to improve, planning to improve on a daily basis. And I hope we see the truth in that over January in the next summer window. I mean, your man Joe is going right for it, by the way. Fair play to Joe. Joe, if you're somehow watching this, good on you, son. Joe asked Chris Mackay about the Jota money and why it was in the accounts, considering it was done on the June 30th. And then he brought up, you know, the fact that we don't sign that well. And he says, when the manager asked for Stephen Fletcher, he got Willo Flood. And then that was when, it's there. Then he was asked, how can you be appointed to the job? Well, and there you go. That was it. So it got fiery between Joe and Peter Lawwell. But fair play to you, Joe, because that's the kind of questions we all want to ask. And Peter Lawwell can get away with wee snide remarks and comments like, have you been awake? Because he knows nobody else in the room is going to stand up with Joe. He knows that the majority of people, 90% of people in that room are going to sit there and be like, well done, Peter, and clap him on. Happy clappers. Fair play to Joe. Good on you. I just wish there was more Joes in the room to actually demand answers to questions like that. He's went all the way back. That's Peter Lawwell's hurt this, man. He's went back to Willo Flood. But I wish there was more Joes in the room. One of the most annoying parts of the entire AGM, and it happens every single year. Every year. And it pisses me off beyond anything else. A wee dig at Rangers. You got to get that in. Get all your shareholder pals and your dad pals on your side. Made a penalty to Rangers joke. In regards to a question about VAR, listen, the fact that this is still happening at AGMs, for me, shows what these AGMs well and truly mean. It is a platform for like-minded people to get together and have a laugh at Rangers. And look, listen, I love a laugh at Rangers as much as the next guy. An AGM about Celtic Football Club should be about Celtic Football Club. That's it. We shouldn't be having wee digs at Rangers at a professional setting like an AGM. It's great in the stands. We're allowed to do it. You know, we are supporters. We laugh at our rivals. This is maybe a business meeting talking about the future of Celtic Football Club. But no, a wee dig at Rangers because that gets your pals on side. Honestly, it's so frustrating. It's the same every year. And listen, if you see the humour in it, great. I can see the humour in it. But it's not what we should be talking about. It's not the pressing point. I want to hear actual answers. I want to hear points of development for Celtic Football Club, not penalty to Rangers. Honestly, Michael Nicholson really letting me down there with that. It's not a time for joking. You know, we're talking about trying to develop our club and get better and do things better than what we've been doing it, and we're just taking me digs. The benchmark seems to be Rangers. You know, as long as we're doing better than Rangers, we're fine. That seriously winds me up. There was talk about the main stand being redeveloped. Chris Mackay said it's hard to make an economic case for it. I agree. I think it would be daft. I think it's a foolish decision. I think Celtic Park is the perfect capacity right now, and you can talk about games being sold out, etc, etc. Let's be real. Not a good idea to expand the capacity beyond 60,000. That's reality. I think Chris Mackay's actually right on that point. And then somebody asking if the Motherwell game will be postponed due to a bus strike. The board say they weren't aware of this, but they will look into it, which means no, the game won't be postponed. This is when we start getting to the end now, and I've recorded for 40 minutes. Jesus God, this is a long one. We then went on to talk about John Beaton. The board was asked about beating drinking a Rangers pub. The laughter was loud, but Lowell didn't miss. Lowell said you can probably recollect the last time a penalty was given against Rangers was when John Gregg handled the ball. Any issue we see the game will take it up. So I never dig at Rangers in the penalty situations. Quite a daft question to ask, to be honest, because listen, once again, it's not going to get addressed properly. But aye. And then finally, it seems like the last thing that came up, obviously there was Peter Lawwell had the floor eaten out of his hands with his reply to a question about the SFA and refereeing standards. This is an interesting one, isn't it? Rodgers said he will ask Michael Nicholson on whether Jota could come back on a loan. I wonder if he's just said that to keep him happy, if there's truth in it or whatever. But that would be interesting, wouldn't it? Jota back on a loan. Maybe. Probably the most positive piece of information that came out from the AGM this afternoon. So that was it, really. A long, pointless video I've made here, and a long, pointless AGM, it seems. But just the same as every year. Nothing. I've learned nothing from this. I've learned absolutely nothing, apart from the Celtic board love to make jokes about Rangers. And that being the standard for AGMs nowadays really says a lot about the guys running the football club for me. They're so detached from us as Celtic supporters, us average Celtic fans, who go and pay our money to go to the games every week. We follow them home and away over Europe and Scotland, and we get that as a thank you, really. No clear ambition or plans to move forward. I think that Brendan Rodgers is doing a very good job at keeping himself poised in these AGMs to really kind of stay in line with the board's lack of ambition, because I think that Rodgers definitely has more ambition than what the board try and outline, and he tries to get that through in certain questions and certain answers. But the board just coming and knock you back down to reality. Peter Lawwell reminds you of why we wanted him out the club in the first place. The AGMs just feel so pointless, and that's just the truth. Right, I've rabbled on far longer than I anticipated to in this video. Sack the board, get a new one in, sell the club to Saudi Arabia for all I care, and let's move forward and try and do something as a football club, something positive, please. Honestly, I'm obviously joking, by the way, about selling the club to Saudi Arabia. I know somebody will take that seriously. No, don't sell the club to Saudi Arabia, but just inject some ambition in, please. My God. Right, like and subscribe if you've enjoyed. I know it's always crazy to divide in the comments, so play nice. See you next time.